Good morning and welcome to Veterans Heartbeat on the Pulse of the Veteran, where we discuss issues of health, happiness, opportunity, and well-being of interest to the veteran community, their families, and the community who honors them.
Good morning and welcome to another episode of Veterans Heartbeat, brought to you by River, the Rural Institute for Veterans Education and Research. My name is Jason Zencraft. My co-host Ed Lasofsky is here with me, and he is the Executive Director of River. We welcome you to a weekly wide-ranging discussion of issues, events, opportunities, and needs in our veteran community. Morning, Ed. How you doing?
Morning, Jason.
We'd also like to thank our sponsor, Farside Signs. They create amazing-looking vehicle graphics that will drive traffic to your business. They are located at 1526 South Avenue West in Missoula. Follow them on the web, Instagram, and Facebook, or just stop on by.
Well, we've had a guest on in the past, Marie Cole. And Marie, good morning. Welcome to our show.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good.
Good.
We also have Nick, who has been our great producer, who would like to have a few words with Marie on the subject of what's coming up.
Hey, Marie, how's it going?
It's going quite well. Right now we have 760 people registered for this event at the Denison Theater on Tuesday.
So, Nick, do you have any special questions?
I guess right off the top, as a University of Montana alum from the journalism school, I know there was a little bit of controversy about this speaker you had coming on, and I guess I just wanted to ask kind of your thoughts on that whole situation and how the whole thing went down.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that I just met with some of the Kaiman students from the university paper on Wednesday afternoon. It was really great to meet with the students. There were about, oh my gosh, I didn't count, but I would say there was about a dozen there. And it was good to interface with them and talk with them about why I chose Professor Mike Adams as a lecturer and why I think it's important for the journalism school. So I think we had sort of a meeting of the minds on why I selected him in terms of there will always be someone, if you're a journalist, who you have to cover who is contentious and controversial and provocative. And even if you vehemently disagree with that person, as a journalist, you often have to suspend judgment and go cover that story and grab the facts and look at all the angles and glean information and then compare and contrast and analyze and dig deeper and research. And this is so typical of my husband. This is what made him world class, is that he could dig into the story and suspend his own judgment and then end up writing something truly balanced and good for the general population. And that's really world-class journalism, and it's that simple and it's that hard.
Well, I completely agree. For folks that might not know the situation, could you describe Mike Adams a little bit and why there was any controversy in the first place?
Well, Professor Mike Adams is the University of North Carolina at Wilmington professor of criminology. And he is controversial. He's outspoken in terms of freedom of speech issues. He has strong, steadfast Christian beliefs. He also fights for due process for students. So it's a real interesting, he's a real interesting dynamic person. And when I proposed that he be the speaker for the 10th anniversary of the Jeff Cole lecture, the dean wasn't particularly thrilled with this choice, and we went back and forth a little bit, and the dean wanted me to sort of change directions and invite someone else. But I really felt that Professor Adams was the person to bring in at this time because we are at a point in our country where we're polarized and it's difficult to come together when we have differing viewpoints and get together and have civil discourse. So that's really why I selected him.
Okay, and so when you met with those Kaiman students, what was kind of the general consensus after talking to them?
You know what was really interesting is they really took the high ground. These students and the Kaiman itself really decided to do very limited coverage of the story because they didn't want to defer to either the dean's position or mine. And so they really stayed very, very neutral, and they felt that enough column inches had been written about it already, and you'd have to agree from their perspective. So I respected that. I really did.
Well, I've got a couple questions there for you, Marie. When you're going through this, I've kind of dug into the background of this a little bit.
Okay.
And this is even deeper than the University of Montana. We've had a lot of controversial speakers who have come on to different campuses around the country. And we saw it at Berkeley, where they basically rioted and did all kinds of craziness.
Yes.
And I've seen a letter floating around from the African American Studies Department from the university that was, it basically, I don't know what the word is. Do you want to explain that letter a little bit?
Well, I think it was signed by about 10 faculty members. I have a copy of the letter here somewhere, but basically these faculty members got together to say that they were standing with the dean, and they were not really welcoming or did not want to welcome Professor Adams to campus because of his controversial and contentious stance. And I understand that, and I can respect that, and that's part of the reason why I selected him. This is a hotbed issue. When you're talking about the LGBTIQ community, when you're talking about freedom of speech, it's a hot topic these days on university campuses. And on both sides, there are very, very strong feelings. And what I'm hoping to do is, despite those strong feelings, bring people together to talk across those feelings to get to the middle and have respectful conversations. And so it's interesting that they sent the letter because, you can see clearly, how everybody is sort of lining up. There is one side versus the other side. But I hope above all that this brings people together to converse with each other about it. No matter how you feel, you can have good, solid, respectful conversations and open debate. I had a gentleman called me this morning who felt very, very strongly about standing up for transgender folks. And we had an excellent conversation. I really thanked him several times for calling me because, he may not have convinced me to change my position, and I might not have convinced him to change his, but we had an excellent conversation. And that's what this is really about. That's the most I can hope for, is that we're starting to bring people together in civil discourse a lot more.
And that's where it's kind of confusing to me. As the dean of the Department of Journalism at the university, to take a stance and be so rigid in that stance, I mean, it's mind-blowing to me that the dean isn't willing to use this as an opportunity to demonstrate to the students how to handle a situation like this.
I think everyone sort of cut right away. I shouldn't say everyone, but I'd say maybe a lot of people. A lot of people cut right to the emotion of the situation and the emotionally charged video remarks and printed remarks and other things that Professor Adams has said in the past. And what I implore people to do is really take a longer, deeper, harder look at who this person is, because nobody is just one-dimensional. There are many dimensions to Mike Adams and the way that he feels. And if you look at him, in that multidimensional view, just as you look at the faculty, just as you look at the dean, just as you would look at me or anyone else involved in a conversation, we're bringing a lot to the table. Every time we enter into discussions with people, we bring our life experience. We bring everything that we've gone through. We bring, our own skills and abilities and knowledge and background. And so
it's our own culture.
Yeah, we really do. So I am hoping for the best, really. I hope that people will come to the lecture with an open mind and listen and engage with each other in conversations afterwards. I hope that they will come and ask great questions. I hope that this turns out to be a very meaningful event at the end of this journey.
In looking at this whole thing, we have a new president at the university, and we've kind of researched him quite a bit, trying to figure out, and it seems like he's kind of cut down the middle. Have you had a chance to talk to him about the event?
I have not had a chance to speak with President Bodner before the lecture. I understand that, his schedule is extremely busy, especially since he just walked into the position in January. So I had put in a request to see if I could connect with him before the lecture, but it has not come to fruition, and I fully understand that. Coming into the university and trying to get your feet on the ground and just hit that ground running right away, especially when you have so many units on campus and so many deans and administrators and staff to interface with, and so many challenges to look at and examine as well. So I haven't had a chance. I was just reading the article about him in the Montanan today, and talk about a really multi-dimensional guy, I think. I think he's going to be good for the university. I do, based on what I'm seeing and reading.
Is this the first time with this lecture series that you've had to go through, maybe for lack of a better word, this much turmoil with the speaker?
Absolutely, yes. Yes, most definitely. This is the first time in 10 years that it's been this tumultuous. And for this long a time, it has taught me a lot in terms of who I am and what I'm willing to stand very firmly for, which is freedom of speech. And that's a good thing. It's a good thing to know where you stand and how you feel as a person and where you draw the lines. So it's good. And I'm willing, obviously, because I want civil discourse, I'm willing to listen to other viewpoints, and I welcome all of that. But it's been an amazing learning experience, and would I do it again? I'm not sure.
That was my next question. What would this mean moving forward for next year's? I wonder if we'll have someone even more controversial.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I really want to sit back and think very carefully about the lecture and about what's the best way to reach the students and to make meaningful change, and to assist the journalism school or, really do something that's worthwhile. So I think there's going to be a lot of examining and talking to students, and I did a little bit of that with the Kaiman students as well. And they identified other areas that are very meaningful to them, that they would love assistance with internships, and they would love assistance with other pieces that lend to their career. So I'm going to be carefully examining those options as I go forward.
Well, one thing that I was listening to a interview with the president, Bodner, and he said that it's the job of the university not to train the students for their first job, but for their 7th and 8th job. Do you think exposure like this to this kind of controversy helps train them as a journalist that's going to help them in their 7th and 8th job?
No, absolutely. I think my husband was a world-class journalist for a reason. He grew from his first job. Well, he was the Kaiman editor when he was attending the University of Montana. And then after he graduated in 1980, he immediately got on with the Missoulian. And after that, he jumped to progressively bigger and better newspapers across the country. And so, over to the Everett Herald, the Tacoma News Tribune, and then on to the Minneapolis St. Paul Pioneer Press, and then on to the Wall Street Journal. And so that, I really think that's a wise comment on the president's part, because, look at Jeff's own progression and where it brought him. It really brought him straight to the top. And I think, the more exposure that the students get to differing viewpoints, the more that they can examine the different issues from many different angles, the better it gets, the richer the experience.
And I completely agree with you on that, because as a J School alum, one of the things they advocate for so much is learning by doing. They want you working and doing stuff while you're going to school, so that when you are put in these difficult situations in your professional career, you might know how to handle them. So that's the one thing for me as an alum, hearing about this lecture. It's huge. It's important. It's something that people need to talk about. And we're required as students, or at least we were, to take an honors level ethics class, and I guarantee they talked about this in the class. I'd be shocked if they didn't, and whether the students would go listen to this lecture or not. And I think it's great. I think it's great what you're doing, and I think it's something that journalists, even past and present, should definitely entertain.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I know that journalism school really does promote that hands-on experience. Mm-hmm. And that's so valuable. There's nothing like it. Look at where you've landed, and look at what you're doing, and it's so important. It really is.
Well, I'm going to ask the question of the day, because there's a lot of rumors around this issue, and that is, you've been treated pretty poorly from what the rumors are floating in the rumor mill. And I've heard a lot of people say that it's going to cause you to review how you're putting out some of the money that you're putting out to support different causes.
Yeah, I think it's natural to reevaluate your position on giving when you're a benefactor and when you hit these landmark years. It'll be, 10 years for the lecture. It will be 15 years for the Kaiman dinner at my home. It's very significant and worthwhile to give. And I think when you hit those milestone marks, it's natural to stop and evaluate a little bit and say, is there something else I could be doing that really has impact and is meaningful and maybe is more relevant? So I think it's a good time to take a good long look at it after the lecture is over.
Yeah, well, absolutely. There's one thing, Maria, I wanted to go back to that has kind of been frustrating the hell out of me for a long time is, and I see it more so in the far left, far right, these individuals who have their opinions, they have their ideals, and they dig their heels in the ground and refuse to budge. There's nothing wrong with, sticking by what you believe in. However, in doing that, they refuse to open things up for debate. It's suddenly, instead of this rational conversation like you had with the gentleman on the phone where you both walked away and, maybe you didn't change your beliefs, you at least had, as we always say over and over again, civil discourse and debate. That is so important to have something like you're trying to do here with this guest speaker. And all I see is individuals, one, refusing to debate, two, getting emotionally tied up into it, so then suddenly these individuals are throwing out all these names. You're a bigot, you're a racist, you're Hitler. Hitler, for Christ's sake. if that's not the biggest form of hyperbole, I don't know what is. So all these people seem to be getting so angry and so frustrated. In reality, it's just ignorance. What's wrong with having somebody come in and talk about something, even if it's 180 degrees from what you believe? You know, I know there are trolls out there, as they like to say, that go out and just say hateful, mean things to get a rise out of people. However, that's not what Mike Adams is. You know, some people may believe that. He just has these strong beliefs. So why not let him get in there and try to convince you otherwise? And why not, if you have opposite beliefs of his, why don't you come in, address your opinion, and see if you can change his belief? And at the end of the day, nothing gets changed. Doesn't matter, as long as you're open to looking at things objectively and try to see it through someone's eyes. That's the most important thing of a debate, and that's how you learn and grow as a human.
I absolutely agree with you, and that's beautifully spoken. I mean, I think you really described it well.
Thank you.
There are individuals on both sides who are very emotionally tied to this, and just really, and as you said, are digging their heels in. And you have to stop. You have to stop at some point and sort of say, okay, wait a minute. Do you really have to resort to name calling? Do you really have to resort to almost slandering people? Do you really have to go there? What's wrong with taking the high ground and, starting to employ critical thinking and, try really hard to embrace another perspective? Because there's learning wrapped in that if you can do it. If you can do that, if you can reach outside of yourself, even though you feel very strongly about something, you may learn something. It's in those moments of great discomfort that learning occurs. When you're squirming in your seat because you're not crazy about what you just heard and it really stirs you, there's learning in that. I mean, I firmly believe that. So, yeah, I love what you said, and I'm passionate about freedom of speech. It's an essential human freedom that we enjoy in this country, and I treasure it. I understand what a blessing it is. I've spoken to so many veterans about freedom of speech and how they have gone out and put their lives on the line to defend this. This is really important to me. This hits home because my husband, really lived by this every single day and would never accept censorship of any kind. So I'm with you. I'm with you on this.
Maureen, we've been talking about a lot of this with the event coming up, but you've been to River, the Institute. We've been offering you a lot of support for this event. How have the veterans that you've been working with at River or wherever, how have they supported you with the event? Can you talk about
Oh, that's easy. These veterans are amazing. Everyone who I've spoken to at River, such a joy to go there. Every time I walk into that office, I feel like I'm home. I feel like I'm welcomed. It's a great atmosphere in there. It's a terrific environment. And you can have good, honest conversations, and you can ask questions, and you can get good, solid, honest answers, and perspective from the veterans. And I've loved engaging with them about the freedom of speech issue. And it's really true. I mean, these gentlemen have gone out and put their lives on the line and have fought for these freedoms that we enjoy in this country. And they have had to come back and sometimes witness somebody torching a flag. And I can understand how that would really hit them, to their core and hurt them from the inside out because of how they fought for this. And yet, so many of them have expressed to me also how they, even though that really hits at their core, they understand it. They understand that freedom of expression includes the ability to do that and light the flag on fire. And they honor that. So, talk about people who really get it, who understand that there is a double-edged sword to freedom of speech. And if everyone would just sort of understand that concept, that it's not, freedom of speech doesn't include the right to be unoffended. You may be offended. You more than likely will be offended, but that's okay. we still enjoy this freedom in it, and it is a gift.
Well, before we let you go, Marie, I just wanted to ask you if you could remind folks when and where this lecture is going to take place.
You bet. The Professor Mike Adams lecture, which is entitled The Death of Liberal Bias in Higher Education, will take place on the UM campus in the George and Jane Dennison Theater on this Tuesday, February 13th at 6 p.m. We are asking everyone to please come with a printed ticket to enter the venue. You may obtain those tickets on eventbrite.com, eventbrite.com, and register for the Jeff Cole 10th anniversary event. Tickets are free and open to the general public. There will be some security checks at the door. We want everybody to be safe, and so no large backpacks or bags, but, we hope to see you there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Maria.
Yeah, thank you. And I want to tell you that we've got a lot of our listeners, and I hope that they open up a prayer chain for you on this one.
Thank you so much. That means a lot to me. It really does. I hope to see you all there. If you're a veteran, come and introduce yourself to me. I would love to see you at the event. I'm going to be wandering around and hoping to mingle with as many in the crowd as possible. So please come say hello.
So thank you very much for listening to Veterans Heartbeat. We'd not be able to bring it to you without all the support of the listeners. And thank you again to Farside Signs for sponsoring the show. If you do need a unique vehicle design, swing on by and check them out. Also, thank you to our main sponsor, River. River has an array of services such as veterans-focused education, a vestibular disorder clinic, and now non-pharmaceutical treatments for pain, anxiety, and depression. Check them out on Facebook or on the web at riverofchange.org. Lastly, we'd like to show our appreciation to all of our veterans. Thank you for serving our country and keeping it safe.